hard to believe that our dear friend, Dan and Deb Carey's is the smallest one. It's a light and delicate barley wine. I don't know if
and a wee lad.
I don't know if you've had a chance to taste it yet, or.
No, I haven't. So
you're in for a treat. It's actually It's really kind of fun, and one of the things that's great about it, if you want to hand me the bottle or you want to open it, I can.
Do that.
One of the things that's really fun is that when you read the label, you're reading down through the hops real quick. If you read it real quick, you'll just say, "Oh, Columbus is another one of those C hops." But if you slow down and look at it, you realize it's Columbia hops, which is a much older style that almost disappeared, and Dan brought it back. This one's very pale. Beautiful color. Barley wines have no color range. They can go all the way from, as pale as Budweiser to, black and opaque. It really is a matter of what the brewer wants to do. These are all American barley wines. The American barley wine style is for much more aggressive hopping, both in the nose and across the palate, whereas the British styles tend to be smaller in alcohol than the Americans, and much more malt-based, much more malt-focused.
Well, you definitely get the hops in the nose right away.
Oh, absolutely.
So, do you know anything about the flavor profile of Columbia hops?
No, I wasn't able to track too much of it down. I looked a little bit up, and I think it's all of the C hops. I think are all somehow related. So you've got the Columbus, the Cascade, the Columbia, the Citra, the Chinook, the Centennials, I lose track of all of them at this point in time. I'm not sure if Challenger is one of those or not. So I'm thinking that it's probably in that one. But this one has got a nice interplay from both the citrus as well as some pininess going on. And you definitely get some of that West Coast pininess, which I think works much better in the barley wines than it does perhaps in the IPAs.
Speaking of which, what would you say differentiates a barley wine from say an imperial or double IPA? An American barley wine from a imperial or double IPA.
We've talked about this answer before, Jeremy, and the answer is marketing.
Okay.
Plain and simple. The double IPA and an American barley wine, there's essentially no difference. The only real difference that I would see between the two of them is that with the double IPA, the brewer really is expecting you to purchase it and drink it right away. Whereas with when they label something a barley wine, in many cases they're meant to lay down, and the brewer really has that idea that he wants it to change a little bit. And the hops that are up front when they are young, like all of these are going to be for us today, the brewer actually is kind of expecting those hops to back off if you're patient enough to let them go for a few years. Wonderful viscosity, just great weight on the tongue. It's not 10W40 like some of them can be. This has got, but it's got some weight, and you can feel the denseness of the malt. It's not, it's not thin by any stretch of the imagination. There's some real depth of character in there. Their description of it, which I think is as good as any. Actually, I'll ask you, what do you think, what kind of flavors are you getting in the malt, since I know you didn't read the label beforehand, and I didn't read it out loud to you like I often do. I love their description of it, but I don't know that we'll come up with it. I would have come up with that on my own.
Well, I get maybe just a tiny bit of toastiness and a little bit of caramel-y, kind of like a caramel malt or a crystal malt flavor on it. So I would say like a light caramel, and maybe a little bit of toast on it.
And their phrase on their label for it is graham cracker-like.
Graham cracker-like. Okay.
But I actually kind of like that, because there is that, a little bit of that, that toastiness that you get in a graham cracker, a little bit of sweetness is left on it. That said, there is ample hopping in this beer. There's a lot of hop flavor. It's spicy, almost like really fresh picked basil, sort of herbal spiciness in the middle of it. And then the bitterness just kind of goes and waves and waves and waves. And the bitterness is actually a little bit piney as well. And just a touch of citrus on the back end as well to try and help balance it out.
And then, of course, you got the heat. And the heat is noticeable. It kind of lingers.
And this is one that I absolutely would recommend. Be patient. Jot the year that you bought it. I know they don't do it every year, but jot down the fact that this is the 2011 variety. And store some of them for, 2-3 years out, and I think you'll have a real treat. The heat usually will back off.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be quite as obvious, especially as the carbonation dies off a little bit as well. The viscosity picks up. When you drop the CO2 level down, it starts to feel a little thicker on the tongue as well. Well, cheers, Jeremy.
Cheers.